Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Let's do a quick update in terms of what I'm seeing here on the markets overall. I'm just going to go straight here to the daily charts. I do have a daily gain here for the S&P 500 SPY ETF, and it's just basically been forming these like low highs here, trying to get to the zone up here, just not quite getting there, coming back and back test the arc down here for how many Mondays in a row now? Monday number one, Monday number two, or we go have another scare, another news-driven event where price can plumb all the way back down to the top arc over here, or to even the lower arc over here. I don't know. I don't really care because so far, whenever it goes down, the besides I guess the Friday volume over here, it really wasn't that high, and I just don't care. It's just Chopsville right now. I still think it's stuck in range at the arc over here and the top horizontal zone over here until it showed its hand. I don't know exactly what it's going to do, but I can still see this as being a higher high here, and I think these are still higher lows here compared to that one right there. So I'm still hopeful in terms of what the overall market is doing, even though it's been a little bit underperforming something here called the ARC Fund, right? You can see how the ARC Fund has been doing a lot better, is holding a lot better compared to the S&P 500. S&P 500 is kind of down, slipping down here, a little bit of a trend line is trying to break through, but the ARC Fund has just been kind of holding up pretty well, right? Even the QQQ is not looking as bullish. IWM actually looks like it's been trending up, right? Interesting. What could all of this mean, right? If you have SPY kind of going down a little bit, QQQ kind of going down a little bit, IWM kind of going a little bit sideways here, looking better. ARC Fund actually looking pretty decent here. I think it's rotation. I've mentioned about this possibility for quite some time. I think they're really trying to rotate from like the large caps that have ran for a very long time already. Just kind of look out and zoom out. Like the S&P 500 has already made all-time high. It's been holding a little bit of resistance zone over there, right? It got over to 1.618, so I don't think it's going to crash down or anything like that. But it's just at a little bit of a resistance zone here, and in terms of what that resistance zone is, nobody really knows. Because I even try to find, like instead of looking at log scale, look at linear scale. I'm not really picking up any like true, Fib level. Maybe the 2 Fibonacci level is like where it's supposed to be. I don't know, but regardless, you're forming a little bit of a ascending triangle here underneath resistance, and SPY just has a hard time breaking through. Meanwhile, IWM is trying to repair this technical damage over here in December, is trying to reclaim the 0.786. It was able to do that. It was also able to break through 0.86 here for good. Then you're talking about some all-time high price action here. It's the small caps are looking a lot healthier because it's touching the Tenkan over here, right? Head of Katana, head of expansion of Tenkan Vision is touching the Tenkan over here. What's SPY doing? It's like way outside, way above the Tenkan, right? QQQ, same thing. IWM, been respecting Tenkan here very well. So IWM is far from being overextended. It's actually looking a lot more technically sound compared to QQQ and SPY. The risk level here for IWM actually is a lot lower. Look at ARC Fund. ARC Fund's also a little bit overextended, right? But it also got above the 0.382 here. It looks like it wants to grab it up here to the cloud, which is going to be around like $68. And if ARC Fund goes from 62, 63 to 68, a lot of the underlying stocks are going to actually fly along with it. I think it's actually going to be a pretty decent move here moving forward for ARC Fund and for IWM, even though it may not feel like it. ARC Fund right now is still kind of breaking even today. IWM has kind of gone down, right? But also SPY and QQQ has also kind of gone down today. I think there's a little bit of rotation that's happening, and that's fine. Look at the macro, you look at the 2-year yield, and for percentages, I'm not going to do that. You are kind of having a little bit of a break back above the Tenkan here, but the Tenkan is negatively sloping. I don't think the support here is going to serve to be very well. Bearish cross rejection here. The Kijun is probably going to come down here to the 3s, which will really ease financial conditions here a lot more. 20-month moving average crawling down, that's going to be resistance. I just have a hard time seeing 2-year yield going up that much higher. 10-year yield, I'm going to delete all this crap over here. 10-year yield, it is still about the 20, great, but is showing a lot of weakness here. It's showing a lot of weakness because you have a contraction in the Tenkan Kijun, right? You have a little bit of a evening star look to it, where basically you have a pattern where it looks like it would want to kind of go down from here on out. I also would look at the RSI. The RSI is not favorable for the 10-year yield because it's just been sloping down, and any move on the way up is going to have a lot of negative pressure to it. I just don't think it's going to end up being that much higher for longer. Especially it's true too because Jerome Powell has said, they started cutting rates in September. Before that, it really was higher for longer, right? They started cutting rates in September, but the top of the yields here, like real market conditions, telling you that the tightening, or the money is really getting tight here around October 2023, and that's the top of the 10-year yield, as well as the 2-year yield, by the way, right? The top is October 2023, and since then it's just been making like a correction all the way down, right? And as soon as they announced that they're going to cut rates, it's actually when the 10-year had bottomed, and it was just simply stretched a little bit too far to the downside and had to make a corrective move, and that's what this move here is for the 10-year, but it's happening on declining RSI, so this move actually is looking really kind of exhausted here. I expect the 10-year to continue to go down over time, and I expect the 10-year to maybe even at some point hit the cloud, maybe not down here, but maybe over here slowly. Maybe it's just going to be a little bit more of a slower move as opposed to 2-year. 2-year is already plummeting. It looks like 2-year wants to get to like 3.3, 3.4, right? 10-year will be slower, probably end up getting here around like 3.7 or something like that. So all of this basically means that the financial conditions are easing, and that basically means that something like RWM is going to do better, something like ARKFIN is going to do better. Now, IWM, it's having a hard time breaking above the 0.76. We'll see what it does, right? It's still early in the month, but I still think that this is a little bit of a rotation going on because of what I'm looking at here. Are we worried about the inflation situation coming back? Look at oil. It's a dead Cantonese bounce after dead Cantonese bounce after dead Cantonese bounce. I think it would not surprise me at all if it just kind of rolled down to like the 60s or even to the 50s. Oil looks really tired, and I just have a hard time seeing, it really just shooting way up from here. It just looks like a very, very weak chart, right? Now, with that said, I do want to do this series where I talk a little bit more about the Max 7 and Palantir as well, because I think Palantir's might as well just enter the Max 7 at this point, the way that they're going. I mean, I don't know when this thing is going to stop here. This is a beast, right? I'm looking at Palantir. I'm going to do a log scale because linear scale just look absolutely insane. Log scale is pushing through 0.2. So it's pushing through the 2.618 linear fib here, 108. I don't know, like, is this just going to hit like 3.618 before it sees any kind of major resistance here? Is it going to hit like the 1.618 log fib here before it sees any like resistance here around 140s, 150s? Maybe, or is this just like a bit of like a false breakout? Maybe, right? I have no idea what to expect here. But the way I see it is this. It could have these crazy pullback here. You had a crazy pullback, went from like $84 all the way down to 64, right? They dropped 20 bucks. You might not see it on log scale, but it dropped 20 bucks between December and January. You already have a pretty major correction there. And it decided that was enough. It decided it just wants to keep pushing up higher. If you look at a Bollinger Band, it's touching a Bollinger Band here. It's no longer overextended like it was over in December. It's touching Bollinger Band, so it at least tagged it, right? Upper Bollinger Band going all the way up, lower Bollinger Band shooting all the way downwards, right? So this is still a very, very impulsive bull trend. I'm not really seeing any warning sign here. RSI is still looking pretty decent, right? I'm not seeing any bearish divergence here on the monthly time frame. Now, on the weekly time frame, it does have price going up here on bearish divergence, but it can keep going on bearish divergence for a long time. Over here, the entire time up here, it was going up on bearish divergence, right? Until it breaks. So it can keep going on bearish divergence for a very long time. I'm not going to just sit here and saying weekly bearish divergence, this thing is done, right? That's not how it works. There's another stock that reported earnings yesterday that I made a post on, which is Elf Beauty. This illustrates perfectly in terms of what I mean by warning signs. This illustrates perfectly in terms of what I mean by warning signs, because if I put the Bollinger Band, if I put the RSI here, you can see that the entire time as it goes up here, it was a very, very parabolic bull trend that kept on going from like May of 2022 all the way ended at March of 2024, right? This thing went on for about close to 2 years. And as it was going up, it had a very big parabolic bullish trend where the Bollinger Band is expanding right to the upside here, and to the downside, the below Bollinger Band is already down to the ground, which is where Palantir is at right now, right? You can see the Bollinger Band starts to kind of turn around in August 2023. What happened in August 2023? Well, let's see what happened in August 2023. Well, that was kind of like the top of this big giant parabolic bull trend, right? It ended up contracting because the two big down candles here in September and October, but it kept on making another higher high after that. This is a trend exhaustion, and you can see that with RSI kind of plummeting down, even though it made a higher high here. Those are a warning sign. Bollinger Band contracting and RSI going down, those are warning sign that you're getting a little bit tired here on the bull trend. You're not seeing that with Palantir at all. And what happened with ELF after that is history, right? And I'm tagging a low Bollinger Band here almost perfectly after earnings have, come up. But that's a different story for a different time in terms of what ELF is doing. I do want to go back here to Palantir. Do I think that this thing has a chance to just continue to be irrational and just keep going up a lot higher? Yeah, it does. How high can it go? I'm not even going to speculate. I have I made a video and I said like maybe the 2.272 would be like the absolute max of where that cycle goes to, because I've never really seen anything like this crazy since like the Bitcoin 2015 and 2017 bull market. I have not seen anything crazy like that since this big giant move up here, right? So this big giant move, I'm not going to draw the fit levels here, but this big giant move all the way to like the 2.272, right? So Palantir has a good chance to end the cycle here at 2.272, which is like absolutely insane to think about, which is like close to $600. A lot of people are going to take profits over here at 1.618. Around 140s and 150s, I think a lot of people are taking profits. You might end up having some pretty crazy move, like plus or minus 30%. Some volatility happen. You end up having some crazy things happening over here. And guess what? Like, it could still make another like up higher. I just don't know where it's going to find resistance, because I thought that 1.44 was going to be some resistance on the log fit. I thought that 1.618 was going to be some resistance here, or 2.161 is going to be some resistance here. All linear fit. Right now, it just doesn't seem to care. It's developing like a Marubazu candle. It looks like it just wants to keep going higher. I don't know what the heck this thing is doing, right? So that's going to be, like, this is like my biggest position. I'm just going to keep holding. There's no reason for me to sell, because I'm not really seeing any warning sign. I just show you what warning signs I was looking for. I'm not seeing it. Tesla. What's going on here at Tesla? I am looking at Tesla, I'm like kind of wondering to myself, interesting. Is this look over here similar to what it is over here, where we could just end up going sideways and get exhausted, going back down to like the 200s or even lower, and then end up, spending another few years of just nothing? Or is this going to be the Bollinger Band expansion that we're seeing here, like as impulsive as it is over here, right? Or as impulsive as over here? I think it's going to be more likely this scenario and this scenario. I think this scenario here is going to be, less likely. But I just want to bring up the possibility here, right? Regardless, I don't think it has to do this. The reason why is because I think it has really truly corrected enough. I think the sentiment has completely flipped. And I think that there is enough global liquidity to pump, and I think there is going to be enough global liquidity and enough US liquidity to really try to push Tesla a lot higher. You do have a little bit of the trees to top here, so it's probably going to need to go sideways here for at least a month or two, if not longer, to correct some of these things. But you're still got, Tenkan Kitchen over here as support. You really go weekly. I think you got a lot of confluent support here on the 250. It's not 250, on 350 area. You have the Buran support band coming up. You're looking into Ichimoku. You have the Tenkan here around 350. You have a lot of these kind of like 350 support level over here. And I also think that this whole downtrend on the weekly over here over the last, or 2 weeks, I should say, this whole downtrend on the weekly has been on, pretty sad volume, if you will. So I think at some point this whole thing would reverse. How far does it go? Maybe 350 is kind of what my expectation is. Why am I also saying 350? Well, 350 is also a pretty important FIB level, right? 350 is the 0.786. I guess it's as low as like 347.58. I'm just going to round up to 350 because to me, I'm not that precise. I don't really care. If back test the 0.786 fit level where we had some resistance back test support, it's not a bearish thing, right? And if you're able to hold the 0.786, that generally favors further all-time high price action. So actually, I'm looking at this. I find this to be a pretty favorable setup. The lower it goes, the closer it gets to 350, the better the risk-reward ratio is for Tesla. So I'm actually finding this setup to be pretty relatively favorable, right? Again, both support bands right there. And if you're also looking at the Ichimoku Tenkan, it's also right there. So confluence of support right there. So we'll see whether or not that's where it wants to go on declining volume. If it wants to go there in declining volume, nobody can argue that. It can do whatever it wants to do on declining volume. NVIDIA, what is NVIDIA doing? It is back testing the arc over here again. I'm going to turn up the volume over here. NVIDIA is back testing the arc over here. You can see how whenever it gets close to the arc, it'll be able to bounce off of it. Here, you broke through the arc here, right? Big resistance zone, push through. It immediately just goes up to the horizontal zone over here. Right now, we're doing a little bit of a back test. If we're able to find support here, doesn't mean that we find another lick going up there, and that could be the end of the cycle, or going up to like the 2.618 over here, potentially, or even having another like exhaustive back test here at the 2.272. I don't know. All I know is that it flipped the arc from resistance here to support. If that's the case, I'm not going to be too bearish about NVIDIA, although I do think NVIDIA is like a late cycle phenomenon because the Bollinger Band is contracting, because you went sideways for about 8 months, because the parabolic bull trend over here has, really gotten completely exhausted, right? Kind of like how it did over here, right? And before the next lick up, then that marks the final move. Kind of like it did over here, right? Before the next lick up, and marks the final move. I think we are seeing exhaustion here in NVIDIA. I think there's a lot of rotation that's happening from NVIDIA to other things, such as small caps and ARK fund stuff. But I just, I also cannot be that bearish because it is backtesting an ARK over here. Even if you don't look at the ARK here, what else is it backtesting? Well, it's backtesting the Ichimoku, right? It's backtesting the Tenkan here at Ichimoku. Last month it bounced over it perfectly. This month it went a little bit lower to kind of scare you, but so far it's holding. For NVIDIA to do well, I really want to see it hold the Tenkan here, right? And I also want to see it able to bounce off of the arc over here. Those are two things for me to really feel a lot better about NVIDIA. And that's all I have to say about NVIDIA. Microsoft, not much to say about it. Respected this again arc here very well. Arc resistance, back test the arc after broke through, after rejected here at the horizontal, rejected here at the horizontal, push through, rejection here at the arc, rejection here at the arc, push through to inside the arc. Right, last month we got rejected here arc again. Right now it's just at the lower part of the range over here. Now, am I getting concerned about Microsoft? Maybe. 20-month moving average is right there. It could end up just kind of going sideways and touch the 20-month moving average and see what happens. Sometimes if it turns flat, it can break underneath of it and can go a lot lower, maybe to the horizontal zone over here. Sometimes if you're having a little bit of a flattening of the 20, it can just kind of hook the 20 here and then just resume the bull trend, right? So I don't know which scenario this is going to be. I see the primary scenario is probably just hucking the lower part of the arc here, wait for 20 to kind of touch it, and then use that kind of propel it upwards. The 2022 situation was a little bit unique, right? I see it just holding the arc and just kind of rotating down over the arc until the 20 catches up, and then maybe use that as energy to kind of push it through a lot higher after that. That's what I think about Microsoft. So I don't think it's quite ready yet. It's stuck in the range, right? Meta. What do I think about Meta? I think Meta has some problems. It's a very bullish chart. Don't get me wrong. This thing can just keep going up a lot higher and higher and higher. The only thing about Meta is I think it's overextended away from the Tenkan, right? The blue line, whenever it gets overextended from the blue line, you get punished either through sideways through time or through price, right? It's a little bit too far away from the Tenkan now. Can things just stay overextended, go over to like the 1.618 here? Possible, but right now you are still battling the resistance zone 1.414. I don't know when or not it's going to break through that for good. If it breaks through that for good, then it's probably gravitating up here to $950, right? If it's not, then you might end up just having a little bit of false breakout here. This might just be a wick to close the month, and you might end up having some month sideways over here. No matter how bullish Meta is, you might just end up needing to wait for the thing to come up so you can follow gravity, find good support to push up higher. I don't know which way it's going to go. I favor maybe the month kind of close underneath the 1.4 here. It is a bull trend, though. Don't get me wrong, it's a bull trend. So the closer it gets to Tenkan over here, the better risk reward it is. So we'll see whether or not the market gives us an opportunity here. One example in terms of why things are overextended from the Tenkan is not good, and you might end up having to just kind of wait for the Tenkan to catch up here, the blue line catch up here, is Amazon. It has these 3 giant big months where it just kind of push all the way up. Now we're way overextended away from the Tenkan. So it's just not really that sustainable. What it would need to do is probably need to cool off here, either get sideways through time or coming back down, maybe even back test 1.272 here. It doesn't matter how bullish Amazon's earnings are. A lot of things already priced in here. A big giant move has already happened. So it needs to digest what it needs to do. Going sideways here a little bit before for a bullish continuation is what I think. Right now it's got underneath the 1.4 here, right? Which is also the same reason why I'm not sure if Meta is going to push through. Although Meta is less overextended here compared to Amazon. Amazon looked really overextended. So yeah, so that's what's happening with Amazon. It's a bull trend. There's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to, basically digest this big move that we just had recently. I'm not seeing any bearish diversions here really on the monthly here for Amazon, so no big deal. Google, what's happening? Again, overextended away from the Tenkan, so it had to come back and back test some things. So that's why you can have like the DeepSeek narratives, you can have all these narratives. None of that to me really matters. What really matters is make a big giant move above, and it's just needed to cool down here. Where is it going to cool down to? That's always a good question, right? It broke down underneath the 1.4 and 4. It's on the log fib here. It's right there at the horizontal GAN. Could it break down further to a more confluent zone of support, for example, like the 1.272 where the Tenkan is located right there? It's entirely possible for Google to do that, right? That would still be a bullish thing, but right now it looks like it's just backtesting this horizontal breakout zone over here. That's all it looks like it's doing. If I don't do a log scale, it could go all the way down to the 1.4 and 4 around 180. That's possible. But it's just backtesting horizontal zone over here. This could potentially hold where it's at right now with the horizontal GAN line around 188, 189. That could potentially hold right there, right? The only thing about this chart is if you look at the RSI, you are starting to see a little bit of exhaustion here because the RSI is not making higher highs. So it is a little bit tired here. It might just need to sleep here a little bit longer, build up some more energy before going up higher. That's the only thing about Google. So I probably won't enter Google if I was looking for a Max 7 stock to go into because it's looking a little bit more tired than the other ones. Apple. What happens with Apple? Apple is looking like it's a beast all the way up to the 2.272. Like it's thinking that it's NVIDIA and it hits the 2.272 fib level. So once you get there, it's a pretty important fib level. Got rejected here, understandably. Come back tested 1.618 here, held. Right now it's just stuck in the range. Like top of the range over here is going to be 2.272. Bottom of the range is going to be 1.618. I don't know how long it has to consolidate sideways over here. I like the fact that it has a big, demand wick down here below. I just don't know how long it's going to have to go sideways here. It's still a bull trend. The Bollinger Band is actually not contracting. So actually, I think Apple looks good. It's also finding support here at the Tenkan, right? Apple is not overextended because it just came back and back tested Tenkan here, right? Not like Google. Google might still have a little bit ways to go. Not like Amazon is way far overextended. Not like Meta is a little bit overextended. Not like Microsoft, because Microsoft actually broke down underneath the Tenkan and is now is resistance, right? So it's showing a lot of weakness. It's similar to NVIDIA, but Apple just looks less Apple just looks less exhausted than NVIDIA, and also look less overextended than the other Max 7, right? I'm not really picking up any bearish diversions here, to be completely honest with you. So, and I don't really like Apple that much. I don't really respect Tim Cook as like an innovator. Like I just think he's a businessman who does like stock buyback, but doesn't matter what I think. Right now, Apple looks like one of the healthier charts here for the market. And that's how I'm going to report it. I'm going to make a separate video maybe later to talk about like, other stuff, but just want to talk about the market. Max £7 here. Hope you guys enjoy a video like this. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye.